Welcome to Know Your Candidate podcast. This is an opportunity for candidates from across Tauranga City wards to tell their stories, their experiences, their reasonings in their own words. A format which gives them more than the public debates and profiles that you've seen already. An opportunity for the voter, the ratepayer, future resident to get to know who you want leading the city and, importantly, are they capable of doing so? Anne Pankhurst, a previous business owner, councillor and political junkie, will find out more why the candidates want to run, where they have come from, what they're going to do. So let's not wait anymore. Let's go.
Good morning. Here we are with Kevin Schuler, Herbs, who is standing in the Bethlehem ward. Welcome to the Know Your Candidate podcast series, Kevin.
Hey, welcome. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Great. Our format today is to take the opportunity for a longer, more conversation approach so that you, the candidate, can speak and share your own aspirations for the city. Will take about 20 to 30 minutes answering prepared questions that I've prepared that you don't know about.
Yeah.
The most important aspect of this election is that you vote and that you encourage everyone to vote.
Yeah, very much so.
Democracy works when we all engage, actively take part, learn about our candidates, understand what is important to us for the future of the city. So remember to spread the podcast through all of your channels and databases, and to ask them to follow the Know Your Candidate series on thepodhub.com. So, Kevin, give us a quick rundown on you, who you are, children, no children, what have you done in the past? Give us that brief bio on yourself.
Yeah, welcome, hi everyone. My name's Kev Schuler, as Anne said, standing for Bethlehem. So I've lived here since returning from Japan in 2003 in Bethlehem. Michelle and I raised 5 kids, children here, and we've actually loved it. It's a pretty lovely community, and it's been a great place to bring up our kids. And they're all about to, the last one's about to leave home. He's in his last year of school at Tauranga Boys College. Before returning, I had a decade playing and coaching rugby in Japan, and then upon returning, owned a business in the building construction support industry, opening garage doors, which I had for 10 years. And so we'll run through that. And during that time, I was also coaching, involved with the Steamers very heavily, and rugby sometimes back in Japan and with New Zealand teams. So sort of a broad business and rugby sporting background up until about 10 years ago. And then I moved into agribusiness with my brother on the home farm, developing that. So the last 10 years or so has been focused on the home family farm business, and just got to spend some good time with mum and dad in that regard as well. So yeah, that's a snapshot of me. Bit of an all-rounder.
Great. So that was a cracker and really short, given that it's quite a extensive career. One of the questions I want to ask is, have you had previous governance experience and roles? And if so, what would have been the biggest budget that you've dealt with during that time?
Yeah, well, so Bethlehem Garage Doors was a relatively small, medium business, and Schuler Brothers, the farm that I'm involved in now, sort of the most we've gone up to is about 5 million turnover. I'm also involved in governance in a farm that I'm shareholding down in Dunedin, down in Otago Way, which again is a 600 cow unit. So not monstrous big businesses, but certainly, been actively involved in the governance of all those businesses for the last 20 years.
And what about community governance? Surely you've been asked to be part of PTAs or something else, anything at all like that?
Well, I've been very active in community support through the schools that we've been involved in, through St Mary's, through Aquinas College, and Tauranga Boys recently, and also supporting and coaching rugby through the local Te Wharekura o Mauel. So I chose the path, I suppose, of, coaching has been the one main way I've delivered. I've been on committees and certainly around sports, rugby, basketball, and also water polo more recently, which is my kids have fallen in love with. So through the schooling communities I've been involved in, I've been sort of, not everyone wants to stand up and coach and be involved for the amount of time that those things take. And that's something that I love doing, and it's been a great way to contribute to the community. So certainly through those sort of small communities, they're very active.
So have you had any experience of working either in or with Tauranga City Council?
No direct experience. No, Anne.
No, that's cool. So into the hard bits now.
Yeah.
I've just softened you up, you know that, don't you? What do you consider the main role of a mayor and councillor of a city to be?
Well, the mayor's got to be someone that can bring a team together and obviously, oversee the rest of the councillors and make sure that, we can work as a team and work collaboratively and deliver on the needs for the community. I think, that role, I think, is also extends down to broader relationships with central government and working hard in those areas to help, get the plans and deliver what cities need. For local ward politicians, I suppose we really have to advocate for our communities that we live in. We've got to get to know what the local areas are after, and we have to, be able to take that to the table. And then we've also got to mix that and manage that against the greater needs of the city overall. So certainly listening to the people that we represent, advocating, leading locally, I think are really critical to ward councillors.
So the skills that I'd really love to drill down on is the ability and experience in managing complex commercial and political environments. What do you bring to that? Because they're clearly you've got quite a commercial brain and you work quite clearly in that. What about the political environment?
Yes, so that's a big question. I mean, politically, like I said, my background has been in coaching and managing people, but, in terms of where I have had experience in the political environment, I haven't been affiliated to parties. I've, just done my own thing. So, and I think those areas are, for me, things that I'll bring my natural life skills to in terms of how I work with people, understand, listen to them. I think understanding other people's points of views is really, really critical in these roles because, there are going to be times when we've got opposing views. We still have to get a good outcome in a certain time frame. And I think, working and lobbying and helping and influencing people is also going to help. So I think my broad background is, this is a new area for me to move into, but certainly looking forward to that challenge of sitting around the table with people and figuring out the best way forward.
So if funding for the huge infrastructure spend is one of the biggest issues facing the city, what would a solution or several solutions of that be from you? What ideas have you got?
Yeah, well, obviously, there is a very big focus on, revitalising the city, and there's a lot of the plans to increase, spending and bring the heart back to the city is the first thing, which, fundamentally I think is a great idea. I think collaboration and working with the private sector is going to be really critical. There's money that the council doesn't have, but at the moment, I think in the CDD, we've got $200 million worth of, private sector money in there that's helping to get those things going. So I think the ability to facilitate and support and work with the private sector is going to be really important. There'll be other avenues that we'll have to look at, but to make sure that we balance the books. But I think it's private sector and working collaboratively is going to be a big part of the future of the city.
Right. Now, given that you govern at large, which you've already alluded to, so you're aware of that, but you are a champion, if you like, or advocate for your ward, how do you see the collective action when it's not what you think your ratepayers will be thrilled about, or some of your ratepayers? How do you manage that conflict?
I think the first thing, Anne, is really important is that I'm visible in that community that I represent so that they know me and trust me. And, I am actually out there asking and understanding what our community needs. If it's speed calming measures on Bethlehem Road, which I've heard on the campaign trail already, and down Carmichael Road to slow things, even finishing off that end stretch of road. If it's about getting a cycleway that connects Bethlehem through the Waihi Road to make it easier for people that want to bike into town to do it. So I think understanding and listening to your people is important first, and then you advocate understanding the bigger picture that you'll have information with around the council table is going to be really important. And there'll be times when you'll be able to influence and get some wins, but there'll also be times when I'll have to go back to my people and tell them that, for various reasons, we can't do exactly 100% what we want. I'm pretty sure that if I'm up front and if I come from a position of listening and genuinely advocating for them, then, and we can get some good wins for our local area, I think that people will understand that I'm doing the best for them and the city, and I think that's the best way to manage conflict.
Right. So I'm just interested now in your reaction to the view that Tauranga is a critical part of New Zealand Inc. and its economic growth. So we have to think more nationally than locally because what happens here matters. So I'm interested in your view about that, our part.
Well, I mean, that's a mirror from the question you just asked, Dan, a little bit. In a way, it's a segue on because, just as a ward, the 8 wards and the Māori ward Tawanui connect into the Greater Council, you've got to look at that in New Zealand perspective. In New Zealand Inc., like you said, Tauranga, Hamilton, Auckland, Wellington, these other cities, we all have our own regional interests, but we all must work together as a team to promote and do what's best for New Zealand. So I think the same principles apply, to be honest. But Tauranga is definitely, there's a huge amount of economy from Tauranga, Hamilton up to Auckland, and we're a big part of the success of New Zealand. We've got the biggest port in the country. Hamilton's a fast-growing city. We're the 5th biggest city, and we're only going to get better by all the indications. So I think that's an exciting thing to be part of at the front of the country's growth and development. Pretty cool.
So how will you manage the multiple competing interests like reasonable rates, new funding models, infrastructure deficit and debt? How will you choose between investing in growth versus rate relief? And there is a lot of angst in the community about the rate.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't want to trivialize that because it's an important thing for people. They're increasing their rates. Is affecting their, what's their discretionary, their income, I suppose, and what's left over. So, but Tauranga, has probably suffered from years or decades of, underinvestment, and we're not the only city in the country. Let's make no mistake about that has these issues that we face. So, we need to figure out a balance between getting the growth we need to increase our housing to meet the supply, the demand that's going to be coming. We need the roading to be better to enable our people to get around these enabling services. And we've got to build better amenities and community facilities. So every time you put a brake on those things and stop them, and then you push them down the road, the chances are that they're going to be more expensive in the future. So continuing with works within our budget, within what we can afford is critical. Like I said before, I think collaboration with the private sector is going to be important. I also think, showing we've got a track record of getting things done ourselves and building a strong relationship with central government is going to be critical because Tauranga is seen as a strategically significant city. So yeah, there'll be times when we will have to pull back. I mean, look at the stadium. It'd be lovely to have a stadium, and that was probably there. People were talking about that as part of that 10-year plan, the long-term plan for a while. It's been something that, I'd love to see in there now, but the commissioners and the people that have made the long-term plan at the moment, that's one thing that they've chosen to push through. So there'll always be a balance about, we've got to make sure we're doing what's critical and what's needed now, balance those rates rises so they're palatable, and explain the reasons why we're doing stuff, but then look for new ways to fund the investment to grow our city.
Great answer, by the way.
That was long though. Sorry about that, people.
So I'm going to ask you a leadership role because one of the things that you have been over the years is a leader, and you did that in your intro. So can you give me an example of a previous leadership role where you didn't quite achieve what you'd hoped to from the role and how you dealt with the failure and what were the lessons?
Another great question. You give me some curly ones here today.
Well, I didn't tell you about them beforehand.
No, that's good. I'll go off the ad hoc. No, that's fine. Look, like in the rugby coaching world, you're always you're having your highs and your lows. And the last year with the Bar Plenty was a tough year, for example, in the sporting world, and had a great team and had a good team environment, but trying to work through again, within a fairly constrained budget, working to bring through some more local boys. And while we had a good mix of players, we just didn't quite have the firepower to compete at the levels we wanted to. I suppose from my point of view, leading that group was, once we picked them, was, showing absolute belief in them and building them up and giving them the confidence to deliver as good as they could. I think those things about genuinely valuing your people that you have on the journey with you is really, really critical. And results aside, you know that if you're delivering the best environment that your players and your staff or people can thrive in, and they're doing their best on the field and they're working well as a team, and you're giving them honest feedback, well, then you can still get a hell of a lot of enjoyment out of that time together. So it's always, sport's brutal because it's a win-lose day most of the times, but you can still have a hell of a lot of fun along the way, and boys can, you learn as much from your losses as you do from your win.
Great answer. So one of the things that clearly you've done in your rugby is build teams, and you kind of expressed that just then. So the power of building a team, would you consider that one of your better qualities that you can bring to the table?
Yeah, I certainly, like I said at the start, I think that's a key role for the mayor. And so whoever is lucky enough to, or burdened with that awesome task of becoming the leader of the city in that regard, I'll be keen to support them in any way. And I'll certainly be able to bring, 20, 30 years of involvement in whether it's leadership of sport or whether it's been involved in the companies I've had, to help them, make sure that the group around the table, we'll work together, all respect each other's input, all give each other the time that they need to express their views, are clear in what we're trying to achieve as a group is really, really important. I think understanding where we're trying to get to will be really, really important, because that's what helps keep people together, is we've got a shared vision about the city. So at the moment, you'll get a whole lot of candidates here and they'll all be saying they've got different views and different visions for the city. When we come together around the council table, we need to create a united vision that 10 of us can have and take back out to the people. And I'd love to be part of that building and building the enjoyment and the camaraderie too. We're going to be spending a lot of time together, and I'm sure our communities will give us flack from time to time. And so we need to know that we can circle the wagons and we can trust each other. And I think that's a critical role. And I'd love to be part of that leadership.
So, Kevin, I'm going to ask you another curly one. I read your response when you went down to the incubator. They asked you some questions.
Yeah.
And you had a really good answer to how important art and culture was to you, and how you'd formulated that, particularly about your experience in Japan. Would you like to tell us about that?
Yeah, well,
Tell us about the experience at the incubator. How did your drawing go?
Well, I did get some lovely feedback that they could actually understand it was a human that I was drawing. So that was real confidence booster. They might have some good leadership qualities as well. Made me feel good, wanting to do more. But yeah, look, I suppose the response there, and the question, I suppose, that was asked around arts and the community is, when I was in Japan, and again, when you think about rugby as a sport, it's pretty brutal and it's about warfare. So one of the themes I looked up and worked on was the samurai code and how they, because we were basically painting ourselves as warriors. But then as I was going through that, I was surprised to learn what the samurai did to grow themselves to become really, really amazing warriors. Was a lot of what became, as a really significant part of Japanese culture now, the calligraphy and pottery, tea ceremonies, the arts, haiku poems. A lot of that stuff was what was practiced by the samurai and the ways to round them out as a whole. So they had to learn how to move their sword and be, physically be super, very strong, and tactically and technically with their sword be the best. But then there was always the yin and the yang of the balance around it was purely around the arts and their ability to relax, control their mind, master their movement. So I incorporated that in the coaching, and it was a lot of fun, and it was real, and it resonated with the players over there. It was a real cool little journey.
Great, thank you. So if I asked you now,
another curly one,
slightly, if you become a councillor, what is a legacy that you hope you leave behind apart from Herb?
Well, the reason I've lived here for 20 years and I've loved it, and we've grown our 5 kids here. And so me getting involved now, I've still got a bit of runway in front of me. I'm still only 57 and I've got some.
Oh, you don't look a day over 39.
Yeah, and so, today I want to stand for now, but one other thing I'd love to do, I'd love to vote in 4 years' time, and I'd love to vote in 7 years' time, and I'd love to vote in 11 years' time, 10 years' time, because I would love to be part of the long-term leadership and direction that sees Tauranga, transform and grow into the future. And that future is what really interests me, because I want my kids to come back here and raise their kids and them to have the same opportunities, but better than what I had. So, for me, being involved long-term in the city, being a leader, helping direct it, helping, make it a better place is really excites me.
I agree entirely with your thoughts that actually you're not creating the city for yourself anymore. You're creating it for the younger generation.
I'm actually quite selfish. I just want my kids to come back so the green doesn't have to go too far.
Well, that's okay. We can deal with that. So one of the things that you brought up was the 4-year term, and I'm interested in your thoughts about, fundamentally, do you think 3 years is long enough to do anything, or do you think it should move to a 4-year term? But then now that is political and curly.
Yeah, well, yes, in short answer, you probably, if I was being politician, I wouldn't give you a yes/no answer. But, I'd say I generally think that a longer term would be better. And you're seeing that at central government. 3 years is really short, and there's a whole lot of promises made, and then there's setting in and getting your feet under the desk, and then there's a year or so to deliver, and then you maybe spend the last year worrying about, what people are going to think of you at the next election. So, provided people are happy and democracy's working and they've selected and elected the people that are doing a job, and they are doing a good job, then a 4-year term, I'm sure, would give us all time to create that stability of leadership that I'm talking about.
Right. Look, Kevin, we've come to the end. It wasn't nearly as bad as you thought it would be. I wish you luck and best of luck for the next few weeks, and enjoy the campaign, because it's just wonderful meeting all those people. Remember
it's all the people too, like you said right at the start, and it comes right back to, share this stuff, talk to your friends, just get people to vote, because I think the more people that vote, at the end of the day, that's going to be the most democratic process we can have.
And the city needs to get the best candidates, and remembering if only 30% vote, but those people have to vote for 100% of the community. So the more people that do vote, the better off we are. And send this podcast through all of your channels.
Will do.
And then follow us on thepodhub.com. So again, thank you very much, Kevin. I hope you enjoyed your experience and it wasn't too challenging.
No, it was really, really awesome. It was great to have a chance to, on this sort of forum to, express my views and to, answer some questions that hopefully resonate with people. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, thank you.
See ya.
Tune in to the next episode of Know Your Candidate to be informed on who you want to run your city. Got feedback and like to comment your thoughts on the episode? Connect with Know Your Candidate on social. This has been the podhub.com experience. Check out thepodhub.com for other podcasts and how you can even do your own.